We're kicking off the show with NVS and Driftline. Please tell me you are riding NVS and wearing Driftline at your undisclosed location.
Well, of course, I absolutely am. We're using my NVS fins and wearing my drifties from Driftline. And those are like like when you're packing your bag, there's a little checklist that's like super important, like the most crucial items, right? NVS fins, drifties, and frankly, one of our other non-sponsors, the Florence Marine X Rashi, long sleeve Rashi. That thing's insane.
And sunblock would be the other must bring. Also, don't have a
Yeah,
sunblock
there's
sponsor quite yet. So anyways, surfnvs.com is the website to go grab your NVS fins for any cluster of fins that you're looking for, single fin, twin, quad, thruster, various sizes. Also, they have partnerships with so many different shapers, who's who really of shapers. So you can find those templates there at surfnvs.com. And then Drifties, we will save you 15% off your pair of neoprene lined board shorts, 0.5 millimeter of neoprene for compression, warmth, and comfort. The promo code is the word SPIT, and it'll save you 15% on driftline.co.
Hey, real quick, funny story about the drifties. So I bring two pair always, and my son's with me, and he's surfing in his standard like quick bong rip thing that he wears, these boardies. And day three, he's like, "Hey," because he wore drifties last year. He's like, "Hey, can I get those ones that don't give me a rash? I got a rash." And so now, of course, he's all about the drifties the rest of the trip. And I think that right there is proof in the pudding. You know, he wants to wear like what the pros wear, but he's smart enough to go, "That's lame. These hurt. I'm going to wear the comfortable short."
The prodigal son went wayward momentarily and then returned.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. All right, let's get into the show.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, a guy. Holy yeah, guys. There's so much surf to talk about. Let me be up front, David. This is the Spit podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass, talking all things surf. I'm not completely prepared for the show, David. I want the listeners to know, although they probably won't miss a beat. But I did watch the entire Tahiti event, or most of it. And man, oh man, good stuff. Good morning, David.
Good afternoon, Scott. We're in entirely different parts of the day, in entirely different parts of the world. Can you explain where you are and why you are not prepared for the show?
Well, I'm in Indonesia on some remote islands. I'm literally right now, David, looking at a killer lineup of 3 to 4 feet peeling low tide reef tubes, occasionally a 5 foot set. There's nobody out. Our camp is tired. There's 12 guys here and they're not even surfing. This is the lay day.
Oh
It's
my
been
gosh.
pumping 6 to 8 feet, 10 foot sets, like macking. And it's going to be like that in a few days. So everyone's like, let's go fishing. And it's a great day for you and I to do this podcast. And yeah, it's the morning here. If the chance occurs, and I'm afraid technically to move my computer and show you guys this lineup, I should probably try to do that because it might be
Just
fun to just turn the computer real gently.
just shoot some iPhone video. I'll send the iPhone
Okay,
video instead. Um,
sounds good.
well, thanks for taking time out of your surf schedule. So tell me, obviously it's been pumping. How are you doing? You getting some really good waves?
Oh yeah, I'm insane waves, ridiculous. The photos will prove me out. It's an easy, once you get in the tube, it's pretty easy. The drop's kind of gnarly when it's 8 to 10 feet, but we're all getting shacked out of our brain. It's a super fast wave. It's an experts only wave. There's guys here at the camp that don't want anything to do with it, and good for them. They're smart, because you don't want to get injured out here. I've actually got a little bit injured. Not hitting the reef, just being an old guy with some pulled muscles in my back and stuff that I'm working through. And I'm kind of just waiting here, and I'm going to get on the Advil plan. And I've been doing everything I can to be ready for the next few days when the swell reemerges. But yeah, good stuff here.
What are you riding?
I am riding specifically a 6.6 Christensen quad that he made me, that I picked up at the last moment, maybe 2 days. I'd never waxed it, just put it in the bag, waxed it up, put in my NVS fins, and immediately was like, yes, I knew this was the call. Not that my other boards aren't great, but it's pretty solid swell. So I brought some smaller boards and some looser boards, but this wave requires precision. And Chris kind of makes, he actually did a great analogy. I think it's an analogy, maybe it's a metaphor, but he said, look, some boards are like cavity back golf clubs, which are real forgiving and easy to ride. And some boards are like blades, a golf club that's a blade, which is precision. You have to hit the ball in the center of the face. And when you do, the feeling you get and the performance you get out of that is 10 times greater than the cavity back. And Chris's boards are like blades. Like for precision, they're just so, they just feel so good under your feet. And when you kick out, you're like, oh my God, I'm glad I brought this board.
Wow. Quite the sales pitch. Yeah, and they're beautiful boards too. So I want to see photos of that board.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You pull them out and everyone goes, oh man, look, that everybody is like, that thing, it just has a look, an aesthetic that's all CC.
Yeah, epic. Well, I'm glad for you. Good job. What an amazing way to spend time with your kid too.
Oh, super fun, kicking out of tubes, high-fiving each other, screaming and yelling, just, playing pool. They have a pool tournament here every year. It's part of the camp package. Everybody gets together and plays in this competition. Of course, everyone watches the videos and the slideshows each and every night. It's a wonderful camp. I'll just tell you, it's called surfingvillage.com. They would want me to tell you about it. And you and I have talked about it many times on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I would urge all of the listeners, if you want an experience of a lifetime, this is my second trip out here. I'm literally looking at perfect waves peeling and nobody out. You're going to be able to surf empty, uncrowded, really high quality waves with incredible accommodations. This is the view I have when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. And, you get it all. I'm not going to, to be honest, it's a bit of a hike to get here. It's 36 hours of straight travel, but it's well worth it once you're here. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And we were worried about the Wi-Fi connection and being able to record spit while you're away, but apparently Wi-Fi is working strong and we're good this week. And then we're going to try to do this again next week for listeners. So
yeah, it's funny that I've got everybody turning off their Wi-Fi now for the next hour to help with this. And they're bringing out Starlink on the next trip. So the next trip out will actually have the Starlink system. So they'll be way better connected.
wow.
But we were able to watch the WSL event with a few, moments of glitches and stuff and delays. But right now we're good.
Let's talk about the WSL event. I mean, wow, what an incredible couple of days of surfing. Hats off to the WSL for executing an incredible event. And obviously, waves are the stars, as you've always stated, but I feel like they really did a phenomenal job. There's something about Chopu being so focused on the reef like that, where the multiple camera angles, they've got it really, really dialed. The boat angle, the front on angle, and then the drone angle, where I really feel like we have an incredible perspective on that wave. And I just thought it was a phenomenal event. The way, running the women's event concurrently and the men's event, it's difficult to get both genders in great surf. This event, they did it phenomenally.
Yeah, you nailed it, right? First and foremost, what a great swell that they had. And secondly, I agree, especially the drone angle. There's some angles where you're like, it was kind of a short tube. And then the drone angle, you're like, oh my God, that was deep and heavy. And he was on the foam ball. And I would tell you that the Olympic people at NBC, I hope they watched that broadcast, because I agree. Hats off to the WSL. What a great broadcast. What a great production that they did. And frankly, if you and I have spoken about this, but if you look at this season on the WSL, as easy as it is to sort of bash some low-hanging fruit regarding how the events go, they've had a pretty good season so far. I would suggest to you, if we were to perhaps put it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being best, I would say that, it's a 7.5 or an 8 as far as the accumulative score of the whole season. And yeah, the women, I mean, it was just awesome. Just that semifinal with Tati and Vahiné was just next level. That's going to be a heat for the ages that they're going to be looking at, and they'll be using that as a marker on their timeline of what great women's surfing heats look like.
That was the greatest single heat in female surfing that I've ever witnessed, and I would argue just it is the greatest heat, full stop. What you want is, in any event, is for both surfers to have ample opportunity to get the scores that they need. What would be best is if they have opportunities to get 10-point rides. This was that heat. And I think in the past, we've seen the women now getting opportunities to surf waves of consequence. And in the recent years, there have been 1 or 2 women in a given event who step up and perform in waves of consequence. This was an event where I feel like almost all of them stepped up to the plate. Not only were they charging and actually going on the waves, but they were navigating deftly incredibly challenging surf. And so it was across the board like a banner event for the women.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think everybody agrees. There aren't really, it's one of those things, like we can say a bunch of stuff about it, but the performances speak for themselves. The swell speaks for themselves. The production was just incredible. I was very impressed with Brisa Hennessy, quite frankly. Throughout the broadcast, I learned, and I'm not sure, but the feeling here at the camp was that her father might be a boat guy out at Namotu. Do you know this?
I'm not familiar.
And so maybe that's where some of her backside prowess paid off, because she looked so comfortable in big heaving lefts. And that kind of that threw me for a curve. I didn't know that about her, and I wasn't expecting that. And sadly didn't put her on my fantasy team, which I should have. But she looked great. Tati looked insane. Vahiné looked insane. I mean, they all looked competent, right? It wasn't like, say, even at Pipe, which I think is a more difficult wave, where you're just like, Moana's kind of a little bit heads and shoulders above most, just because of her knowledge of the way that the peaks are going to roll through and which set's going to do what on which part of the reef. It's a little bit more condensed here in Tahiti, and everything's more focused. It's a little easier to deal with and to understand the lineups and to get time in the water. And so, from that standpoint, it'd be really great, wouldn't it, if somehow Moana got a wild card into this event,
Totally.
And unfortunately, I don't think she's in the Olympics.
Well, it's hard after watching this event, it's hard to look past Vahiné as the Olympic favorite. I mean, I can't imagine anybody beating her.
No, there's no doubt. Right. But
yeah,
it's competition. They got to run the heats. Brisa looks legit. Tatiana looks totally legit. Like, I actually think that it's closer there than it is with Moana. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, Moana's still sort of head and shoulders above everybody at Pipeline.
Well, for those who didn't see it, you mentioned the semifinal heat between Tatiana Weston-Webb and Vahiné Fierro. I want to kind of replay that just on the podcast a little bit, because it was spectacular. Vahiné did exactly what you would expect her to do, which is get 2 8s. So Tatiana Weston-Webb needed a combined, she was actually comboed. She needed a combined 16 points. She got the 6.07, which is what she needed. And then the remaining score that she needed was a 10-point ride. And so we knew there were 10s out there. We knew that she would charge. But when you see that set approaching and you see that she's in position with priority, that is an exciting moment in surfing, where it's like, wow, she's going to get the chance. There's 5 minutes left. Will she be able to level up and rise to the occasion? And she did. Tatiana got a 10 when she needed a 10. It was spectacular to witness. And so now you have a position where they have exactly tied scores, but Tatiana is winning on the count back because she has the single highest wave. So now Vahiné Fierro's back is against the wall with less than 5 minutes left, needing an 8.43. And sure enough, similar scenario, a wave comes, presents the opportunity. She does exactly what she needs to do. Score comes in at a 9.43, I believe. So she got, more than she needed and ended up winning the heat and with 2.5 minutes left, basically. So pinnacle of sport.
Yeah. Wow. It was incredible. When it was going down, I was reminding some of the younger guys here at the camp about the heat with Bruce Irons and Kelly Slater. I think it was 06. It might have been, I don't know, it could have been 2010. I forget the exact year, but Kelly needed 2 10s, I believe. Don't quote me on the exact score, but he needed at least a 10 and a 9.9 or something crazy. And he got it. And Vahiné had a similar, not quite as heavy as a number needed. She wasn't comboed by 19 points, but she needed a big score and she got it. And it was sort of like Cinderella, fairy tale, local girl, like it all just came together for her. And everybody was ecstatic. And I'm sure that as heartbroken as Tatiana was about not getting through that heat with a 10, which is sad, which is a definite bummer. Especially with a 10 and an 8 or whatever she had, right? As you mentioned. It's pretty incredible. And I think she was even happy for Vahiné.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to be. I mean, Vahiné, really, you identified her. I think she was your pick to win. And so we're aware of her name, but I haven't really seen her surf that much. And I certainly haven't heard her speak that much. And so hearing her in her post-heat interviews and watching the surfing that she was doing, she absolutely won me over. I am a huge fan. I am rooting for her in the Olympics. I'm rooting for her to actually earn her spot onto the championship tour where we could see her at different venues.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I know she surfs in the ISA events, which is great. The question came up, how come there aren't more Tahitians on the WSL? Actually, the question that came up yesterday was, how come there aren't more Indonesians? And it's kind of the same thing to me. It's like these people are brought up in such perfect, epic conditions that it's hard for them to go grind on the QS and at, whatever 3-foot Huntington for lack of a better phrase. Just the less than stellar conditions that they're used to normally surfing. So it's tough. It's a real mental grind to leave perfect Chopu and be thrown into, less than stellar conditions in a full suit and attempt to qualify for the CT. And on some level, there needs to be a discussion about, you and I have often said, okay, let's trim it to 20 surfers the whole time. The CT should be 20 surfers the whole time. And the Challenger Series needs some energy. It can't just be overlooked as the redheaded stepchild. My apologies to all redheaded people that might be stepchildren. You know what I mean? Like the Challenger Series is going to need some energy so that those Rio Wadas of the world, those Vahiné Fierros, they can have an opportunity to break through in great waves. And we saw this with Jack Robinson years ago. We were like, God, he's got to grind it at Rio to try to qualify. We all know that he's the man. Like, right. Why isn't he on tour? Now he, luckily he's from Australia, so he has a little bit more understanding and the ability to kind of grow up surfing competitively through sort of less than stellar conditions. And he pulled it off. But I do think that the Challenger Series deserves a little bit of energy, not more than a little bit, actually. It deserves a lot of energy. I think there should be, whatever number there is, they need to be at, for instance, maybe it's Cloudbreak, they need to be good, high quality, dare I say it, waves of consequence for the Challenger Series. I know that takes a lot of resources, but that's how the Vahiné Fierros are going to get onto the CT.
It's clear as day that that's the better business decision and where the WSL should be aligning themselves. Whether or not they'll make those adjustments, I'm not confident. But the reality is, it also relates to something else that we've been talking about in recent months, maybe years, is yes, you're right. Those Tahitian surfers don't want to leave, but now they don't need to leave. They don't need to go on tour to make a living. I just looked up while you were talking. Kayuli Vost has 200,000 Instagram followers. Emio Sersmack has 280,000 Instagram followers. When you have 250,000 followers and you have those mainstream sponsors of Red Bull and whatever other brands, they're paying you enough. You don't need to leave, and you get to surf the best waves in the world, so they're fine.
Well, you're absolutely right. So I guess it depends which career track you take. content producer slash epic all around, ambassador, I guess. What would you call those people? How would you?
Yeah, influencers, professional surfing influencers. Yeah,
thank you.
but
professional surfing influencers.
but
PSI.
we do know Vahiné does want to be on tour. Like that is her ambition, and so I think we will. And she's been close to qualifying in recent years. I think she was one spot out last year, so I expect to see her next year.
Yeah, I would agree with because even though I said, look, it's tough, but she has coaching, she has ISA, she's doing the deal, she's flying to El Salvador, she's trying to grind, and she showed some results. And but at some point, if it doesn't pan out after 2 years of trying to qualify, you kind of throw your hands in the air and you're like, I'm just going to be a PSI here at Teahupo'o.
Yeah. Well, what did you, speaking of coaching, I loved seeing Jeremy Flores back and hearing from Jeremy Flores.
I totally agree. Jeremy Flores should be in the broadcast booth, I think. I know he's got a great gig as a coach, and that's probably where he wants to be, but he's like quite a few of the other coaches. You want to hear from them because they're giving insights that are crucial to our enjoyment of the event. The Ross Williamses. I mean, I think Jake Patterson, when you get him on some coaching speak, he's incredible. Obviously, Jeremy. So, yeah, I mean, I think the more we get coaches with a microphone in their hand, however that happens, I think that's better for the production.
Totally agree. And Jeremy, I'm just such a huge fan of. What about, what are you doing? Shooting video?
Trying to.
Okay. Let's move on to the men. Italo took down the final against John Florence. John Florence was surfing like a savant throughout this event. I mean, he is just so incredibly artful in his approach in Waves of Consequence. So I was really, rooting for John and excited just to see every wave that he stood up on. But Italo was not necessarily a safe pick for this event. Italo, despite having won Pipeline in the past and certainly being a charger, his competitive prowess has been a question mark for us in the last 2 years. This was a huge return to form for Italo. The question I have for you is he officially back? Is he a threat for a world title this year?
Well, he made a huge jump in the standings. It's a great question. My heart and my gut wants to say yes. I think that the conditions fire people up. Like they fire up competitors like Italo. Like when it's 8 to 10 and all the energy's there and he's focused, and this guy absolutely charges and he throws himself over the ledge, and he loves the speed, and he loves the post-heat interviews afterwards. And I mean, he was really in his element when you look at all the aspects of surfing out there. If you put him in, say, coming up, for instance, Punta Roca, and it's 3 to 4 feet and crumbly and not so great, is he going to have the same competitive focus? I don't know. I think that's where we will be able to answer your question. Is Italo back? We certainly all want him to be back. It was fun to see him in the finals. I was excited for it. And big congratulations to Italo.
It was super exciting to see. I'm thrilled to have him back in the mix. Maybe it was the waves specifically that fired him up. Maybe there's something, we've kind of pointed to. It used to be that he was just the super happy, stoked Italo who is all about surfing. And then the last year or two, or I guess post world title and Olympic win, there was a lot of celebrity and a lot of fame that he was kind of reflecting through his social media. And so it felt like it was not about surfing for a period of time. But at this event, it felt like there was a shift back. And just seeing him in the channel when he was watching the women's heats, somebody pointed out to me, he was dancing in the channel. He was sitting there on his board, like rocking out when a girl would get a good wave. And so there seemed to be some of that same old stoked Italo who's just thrilled to be back in the water. And it used to be that he would be that way even in 3-foot crappy waves that you're talking about too. So we will see. I guess we'll have to wait till El Salvador. The biggest crime here is that he's the current gold medalist from the Olympics, and he's the current Teahupo'o winner, and he will not be surfing in the 2024 Olympics at Teahupo'o.
Wow, that's very interesting. I did not know that fact. That is a bit of a crime, right? That doesn't seem like all the stars have aligned for you and I, the end user, the fans of the sport. Of course, there's going to be great surfers there, but as you mentioned, to have the current gold medalist not in the competition and the current Chopu champion, that's a lot to bite off. I think, again, if you're an NBC producer, you're kind of like, what happened here? Feels like a fail, like,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, you know what though? It makes me realize that the qualification system for the Olympics is really, really incorrect. And we did discuss this previously about Kelly Slater should be in the Olympics when that petition was circulated, because Kelly's the most qualified person to surf in the Olympics. You know what I mean? So like create a qualification system that allows what they did was create a qualification system where they thought it would allow the most merit-based system and the most democratic way for the widest variety of people to find their way into the thing. But realistically, it should be the most, I don't know, qualified people for this given spot. Running an event in El Salvador to find out who's going to go surf in Chopu isn't very bright, but it's a way to kind of give the broadest number of people an opportunity.
Exactly. The ISA is up against this thing called include the whole world. This is the Olympic Games, and so with that in mind, it's a tough task for them to be able to field all the people that we think should be in the event while also, quote unquote, doing the right thing or just being inclusive of the entire world. I mean, this is the Olympic Games. And so they have to provide a scenario, as you know, David, that allows for whoever to be able to produce a team, whatever nation state, might not have the most qualified guys relative to the Italos of the world. You've got to give them a chance to try to qualify. And maybe we'll be surprised. I mean, how crazy would it be if a German wins the Olympic gold medal at Chopu? Very doubtful. Probably a great long shot bet at $2 somewhere if you want to place that bet.
Look,
the
reality is if you ask any expert, who are the top 3 most qualified people to surf in the Olympics at Chopu, almost everybody in their top 3 currently would pick Kelly Slater and Italo as 2 of the top 3. And so the fact that those 2 people aren't in it is just a failure of the criteria, the qualification process.
Well, the question is, would you have said that, prior to this event? Like if you were to say, name me the top 3 guys that should absolutely be in the event at Chopu, would Italo be one of those 3? I don't think so. I think it would be Kelly, John, and either Gabe or Jack Robinson, maybe Baron Mamiya. You know what I mean? Like Italo's not in the conversation 2 days ago.
Yep. Well, he is now. That's for sure.
Yeah, he is.
So the Gabriel Medina, John Florence heat was one of those other ones that was absolutely for the record books. Like, first of all, those guys, their competitive record against one another was tied with John Florence's win here. But going into this, it was John had 6 wins, Gabriel had 7 wins. The waves are absolutely firing. The waves suit both of them really beautifully. And so it was an incredible, and they lived up to the hype. Like there was 10-point rides out there. They surfed into the 9s, each of them. I think Gabriel had a heat prior where he got a 10 and what would have been, could argue to be a 10-point ride, a perfect heat. So he was in incredible form going into that heat with John. So it was almost a shame to see Gabriel get knocked out.
Well, I agree. And I had Gabriel as my power surfer in fantasy surfing to double up his points. And you might be a little frozen. Can you?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
And the one thing is that here at this camp, when we were all watching the John Gabe heat, as soon as it was over, everyone turned off their computers and walked away. Now, of course, there was a 30-minute break, but there was the energy at the camp during that heat. Everyone was like, basically, this feels like the final.
Yeah.
And of course, it was so unfortunate that Gabe did not make that first tube, which would have been a 10.
Yep.
That would have been a 10, I believe, if he would have just, there was a weird little fin slide, something at the very end that sort of surprised everybody. It looked like he was on his way to come out of that. And that changed the whole heat right away, of course, because after the restart, he scraped his back. funny, he scraped his back either on that wipeout or on the next wave, which pushed him onto the reef. And the feeling here at the camp was, okay, that probably fired up Gabe like no other. Like now he's pissed, like that's the last thing you wanted to do. Because as you mentioned, he was so in form, for the whole event. So that was unfortunate. And then of course, John just did what John does. And it was exciting nonetheless, but I wanted Gabe. I didn't not want John to be in the final, but for my own selfish fantasy surfer reasons, I wanted Gabe to win that heat.
Yeah. Well, the wave that you're talking about that he fell on, that would have been a 10-point ride, that really solidified for me that the waves are the stars and that you need to put them in scenarios that pushes them beyond their limits. Because Gabe surfed that wave to his fullest ability, and the wave still reigned supreme in that moment. And so to see Gabe kind of, there's been so many times throughout Gabe's career where he just looks like the Terminator and there's nothing that can stop him. And that's largely because they don't put him in situations that are actually living up to his potential and his standards. This was a moment where the wave was still a few measures more complex than Gabe could solve. And so seeing that happen, I was like, this is it. This is the pinnacle of sport. And the reality was he took off deeper and later than he would have a year ago. Like he was pushing himself to the limits. And so it was spectacular. And I think that we did see Chopu surfed in ways that we have never seen it surfed before. There was a couple of waves that Ramzi Bukhayam got that were like unbelievable foam rides or foam ball wrangling rides. Yago Dora, I could think of a few. John as well. You could see that he was taking off steeper and later and deeper than he used to in the past. So there was like 10 waves that I would argue were better than any 10 waves that I had seen prior ever from Chopes.
Yeah, they were pushing the limits. You're right. There were some foam ball rides. Ramzi Bukhayam, of course, has got to be the one that, nobody really expect. We all know he surfs great, especially backside.
Yeah.
Frontside, I wasn't sure how he was going to handle himself in that type of situation, and he absolutely shined. He seems like a big, strong guy and sort of a bull almost, and he powered his way through some heavy, heavy barrels and incredible stuff. And yeah, I mean, the level of surfing, it frankly it can't, it's at its highest peak right there when you've got 8 to 10 foot Chopu and those guys pushing their limits. Riding the foam ball, adjusting in the tube, pumping through the tube. Ryan Callanan comes to mind as well. There was quite a few incredible rides. Baron Mamiya's quarterfinal, he was next level. He was on a barrel bender, as Flick said, which was a great little phrase. And, it's so funny. You get in a rhythm out there and it's kind of hard to stop the person once they're in that rhythm. I mean, they paddle out before the score for the last wave's even up. They're getting another one that's just as good or better.
Yeah. Let me bring the conversation to Kelly Slater. Kelly Slater did, what we've seen him do for 25 plus years now, which was in the dying moments, will a wave to him and get the exact score that he needed to make the heat. I think that was against Ethan Ewing. Ethan had Kelly's back against the wall. But I've stated in recent years that, look, Kelly isn't up to, he's just not as young and spry and as good of a surfer at small waves as the Felipe Toledos of the world are. Kelly cannot beat Felipe at lowers or El Salvador or Portugal or whatever. But when there's waves of consequence, Kelly is the guy to beat. What are your thoughts on that conversation now?
Yeah, sadly, I didn't see one of Kelly's rides. Okay. I didn't see any of them. So I was bummed about that. So it's hard for me to comment on him, but yeah, I mean, look, this is where Kelly is going to shine. He must have lost in the round of 16 to Yago. Who did he lose to?
No, he lost in the quarterfinals to Ramzi Bukhayam.
Okay, so he got through his round of 16 heat, which I think was against Ethan Ewing.
Yeah, that was the one where he beat Ethan. But my thought was, I've always said in these conditions, Kelly's top 3 with Gabe and, John.
Yeah.
After this event, I felt like, no, now there's 10 guys who actually are right there with Kelly. And so my argument of, well, if he sticks around and gets the wild card in the best events in on the planet, he's not only a contender, he's the guy I'd put money on. One of the three guys I'd put money on. Coming out of this event, I felt like Ethan had his back against the wall. Ethan could have won that heat. And the 10 other guys or 8 other guys that are in the quarterfinals all could take Kelly down in this event. So I'm less convinced that Kelly's the dominant force in those waves.
I totally agree with you. And as much as I hate to say it, I agree with you. When Kelly came on tour, when he was a young guy, it took him a year or two to kind of be the dominant guy, only really about a year. Then he was the dominant guy and everyone acknowledged, okay, this is the dominant guy. It's going to be really hard to beat this guy. And it was. And then let's say after his 11th world title and going into the latter part of his career, you and I spoke about, okay, look, we know he's still the dominant guy at Pipe. We know he's still the dominant guy at Teahupo'o, at Cloudbreak. He's the dominant guy. He can have his moment maybe at the box, but when they go to Rio, he doesn't even show up. Or if it's at Bells, even though he's had some great performances there. Point is that his the performance gap between him and the others started to shrink. Yeah. And you and I started to speak about, well, for sure he's still the guy at Teahupo'o and Pipe, and maybe that's it. Maybe I'll put money on him at Teahupo'o or Pipe or Cloudbreak. It's kind of turned into those three. And now we're at this place where the other performers, the other surfers have all raised their game. Kelly hasn't necessarily lost anything, but the rest of them have moved their way up there. And for sure now, if you were to ask me the top 3 guys, and we already mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, you noticed, well, I'm not sure if we put Kelly's name in there or not. We did, but you could easily say Jack, Gabe, and John and be completely fine with it. And that bared out here yesterday.
Completely. And now guys without sponsors, Ramzi Bukhayam is in that conversation in these waves, No.
Ramzi's not in the conversation with the top guys you're going to name. If so, you're telling me you take Ramzi over Kelly right now. That's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm telling you Ramzi beat Kelly.
I know, but I'm just saying if we were to place a bet right now, like say they were going to go into the Olympics, you're more comfortable with your bet on Ramzi than you are on Kelly.
I'm more comfortable
at 8 to 10 foot choke.
I'm more comfortable with Kelly. I still need Ramzi to prove himself more to me. But my point is, your point is that there's that many more guys. It's not just former world champs that are going to threaten Kelly in waves of consequence. It's also guys like Ramzi Bukhayam.
Well, that's interesting. So, because I'm wondering, okay, was that just like a one-off for Ramzi? Or if I asked you to name the top 10 guys or top 8 guys right now at Teahupo'o that you would put above Ramzi, you could do that, right? Like is Ramzi one of those guys that's now in the elite at Teahupo'o?
No, but he's made me acknowledge who he is, like I now know I'm going to keep my eye on him next time. But for this sort of a thing, I need to see a track record. And so this was his first entry, and I'm going to pay attention henceforth.
I guess what I'm kind of getting at is if you're to name 8 guys at Teahupo'o who are the 8, and if in fact Kelly Slater's in those 8, which number is Kelly? Is he 3? Is he 8? Like, what about Kalu Vos? What about Kelly, the other wild card?
Yeah, Kelly is in the top 8 for sure. I'd say he's in the middle of the 8. I would put Gabriel Medina in front of him. I would put John in front of him. I would even put Jack Robinson in front of him. I would put some of the non-CT surfers like Matahi Drolet right there. And then, Kelly would be it right there after that.
Let's speak specifically to CT surfers, though. Would you put Baron Mamiya ahead of Kelly at Teahupo'o?
No. Definitely not.
I would not either. Based on competitive savvy. Ethan Ewing.
Not quite, no.
Italo.
If I had to bet money, I would bet on Italo over Kelly at this point. Yago.
That's a good one. Yago above Kelly or below Kelly?
It would be a tough bet, but I'm going to go Yago. I'd bet on Yago probably.
So Kelly's in about 6th place, right?
Yeah.
Are there 2 others? I don't think there are. I'm like Kanoa, no. Leonardo, no. Like,
no.
Who am I missing? Oh, how about Liam O'Brien?
No,
No, I'm sorry. Connor O'Leary. That's what I mean. Connor O'Leary.
no. Still got Kelly.
Yeah.
I just
Connor
think
O'Leary
like
could be in the top 8. Or Ryan Callanan.
no, Ryan had an incredible performance, but I wouldn't put him in the top 8 either. What I like about the ones that I did approve, like Yago Dora, Italo, is I feel like they're still on their they're still growing at Chopu. Like they are still on the ascent. They are going to get better and better each season at Chopu. Whereas I feel like Kelly, I don't know that he's going to get better. You know, he may plateau and be able to perform to the level that we've seen this year, but I don't see him necessarily pushing beyond the limits. Whereas I think Yago could next year be doing something that we hadn't seen before, or certainly Italo could. Italo was going for a giant alley oops.
So great.
I know.
Stoked.
So that, and by the way, your local boy, Jake Marshall, got an insane wave.
Yeah, I know. Jake was psyching. That was such a great, part of the story, especially here at the camp with my son, who's friends with Jake, and everybody was pretty fired up. The California squad here, which is about 4 of us, pretty fired up on Jake Marshall's performance. And frankly, I don't know if I want to say surprising, but I guess my eyebrows were lifted a little.
Yeah. I mean,
regarding his performance.
Look, he's continued to surprise me. I never expected the performances that we've seen from him out of Sunset. You know, big, scary waves is where he is delivering his best performances. And I would not have identified any of that. Even after seeing him at Sunset, I wouldn't have identified it for Chopu. So he's killing it. Good for him.
Hey, let's take a quick break and then come back and continue the show. Stand by.
Sounds good.
Test.
Back.
Okay.
Well, Stab Magazine posted a couple of rumors about the 2025 season. On real quickly for you and get your thoughts. Sunset Beach is gone. They're adding the Abu Dhabi KS Waveco pool. J-Bay returns.
That's a fail.
J-Bay returns.
Sorry, let you go through the list.
And then Cloudbreak may be the finals day event in 2025 instead of lowers.
Okay, so the first one, Sunset Beach being replaced by a wave pool, is horrible.
Right.
From an end user standpoint, from our perspective, from the fan base, the hardcore surfers. Now, I will say this, a little bit of a caveat. I have not seen that wave, and I'm not sure it's going to matter, but I understand it's much longer than Kelly's other park. And so
looks the same otherwise.
Have you seen the wave peel?
Yeah, Kelly posted a video from it 2 months ago, let's say. And it's just more of the same. You know what I mean? It's a perfect right and a perfect left. He would tell you there's variation in it, and it's different than the Surf Ranch wave, but for us, the viewing public, it has all the same problems that wave has in terms of its repetition.
Okay. Yeah. So, and regardless, I think to take Sunset Beach off of the table is a big problem. I do hope that they make the Sunset Beach event a Challenger Series event.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out. The next one on your list was they may bring back J-Bay. Was that the next one?
Correct.
I've heard this as well. And of course, everyone wants that, right? Especially if there's only 20 surfers post cut, 20 surfers, a 2.5 day event. I think that's incredible. I think that's really good for the women as well. And it's sort of like, I know they've run plenty of women's events there, but now you get this feeling that they're more like prime conditions. Why not run the women, as opposed to sort of, it's flat, send out the chicks type of vibe. So that's exciting. And then, what was the last one? Cloudbreak.
Cloudbreak is the finals day event.
Yeah. So I've heard this. Yeah. So Stab threw this out there. I don't know why, I don't think they would throw this out there without this being in fact happening already. Like it's going to happen. I think that would be a huge fail if you teased us with that and it didn't occur. So it sounds like that's happening. And that is obviously a no-brainer. Way to go. Hats off. I would say it's a year late, though, with
Right.
John deciding, I can't win at lowers. I'm out. Carissa saying, I'm out. That's unfortunate. You know, one of the big winners here is Steph Gilmore, who I think is going to go back on tour and is going to get, perhaps reap the benefits of these better waves. But of course, she's got this whole new guard to deal with that are just, I'm not sure how they feel about Steph Gilmore. If they feel like the way that others felt about Kelly, like, oh no, it's the GOAT. I got the GOAT in a heat. Or are they just like, I don't even know who they call her lady, like, I don't even know who that lady is. You know what I mean? Like there's not as much intimidation.
I think I've even heard them say that they all bow down to Steph, but I don't think that they feel the same intimidation factor. I don't think Caitlin Simmers is going to surf differently when she draws Stephanie Gilmore in a heat, like certain surfers did when they drew Kelly Slater for a long period of time. So I think they're okay with that. My only problem with Cloudbreak as a finals day event is that it would be just as useful as a main event or an event throughout the course of the season. It's almost a shame that we'll only get to see 5 men and 5 women on the 5 people on the men's side, 5 people on the women's side surfing if it's pumping Cloudbreak, because that's a wave that could handle 3 days of the best 15 or the best 12 surfers or whatever it is. So I think this event at Chopu proved, of course, or validated that the smaller back half of the tour is a better event. It creates a better event. And there's enough good surfers that can level up to that quality of wave and make it entertaining and very competitive. It's no longer just 2 or 3 on both the men and the women's side. There's now 10. And so if Cloudbreak was pumping, I'd be more than happy to have, the post-cut version of the tour surfing there for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I think if we pull out from a 30,000 foot level and think about the operations and logistics of this, it makes a little bit more sense from that standpoint to only have 10 surfers on site and their support staff and the production team. All of that is going to pretty much encompass, probably both islands, Namotu and Tavarua. I'm not making excuses. I agree with you. They've done it in the past. They can certainly do it in the future to have the whole tour there and in competing. But I do see how step by step, little hurdle by little hurdle to get back there, we start here and we see what happens. But I would agree with you. Look, wouldn't it be great if we could have 3 days of competition there instead of 1? But I'm super excited about this. Like, to me, the whole waves of consequence thing that you and I have been speaking about. I mean, I think since the very first show you and I did, which was whatever it was, 8 years ago or something,
over 10,
I've been speaking about this. Like, come on. I remember I was like, why not have an event at Puerto Escondido?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is good news. I'm excited about it. Anything's a step up from lowers, which, not to take away anything from what a great competitive venue that is. It's just not, we've spoken about it at length. It's not where you put the world's best to determine the world's best. By the way, something of interest here. I forget which sport it is. Somebody told me yesterday, and it might, you know what it is? It's competitive bass fishing. They said what they do is they have the same thing where they take the top anglers, the top 5, and they have a finals day against them, and they crown a champion on that finals day. But what they also do is they take the top points getter over the entire season and make him the angler of the year, and he gets equal money and equal prestige. That might be something that the WSL looks at. So we do have a finals winner, but we also have that situation where if there's one of the top 5 that was clearly the best surfer of the year based on points, he also gets acknowledged as the surfer of the year. And of course, that could be the same guy. He could also be the world champion. But that way we eliminate that possibility of, say, for instance, Felipe who was far and away the points winner. He could be the surfer of the year as well. So that's something the WSL to look at. Take that into consideration.
Interesting that we'd be taking cues from bass fishing. Wouldn't have seen that one coming. Well, I agree. I'm happy with Cloudbreak as being a venue period. And as a finals day event, it's better than lowers for sure. And in fact, I might even argue it's the most interesting and challenging competitive wave on the planet and best wave on the planet. And so I'm all for it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. It's a much, it takes a lot more than Chopu. And I don't mean guts. I mean, just there's a lot more to deal with. That wave presents a lot more issues, and yeah, it's an incredible competitive wave and a very difficult wave to surf. And it kind of starts to throw more of the pipeline vibe where, okay, it's 8 feet and it's not just one takeoff zone. There's going to be quite a few. Oh, what's this West Peak that's going to mow me down? I'm going to get slaughtered by this thing if I sit too far up the reef or if I'm paddling back out. So there's a lot there competitively, and from for you and I, the end user, the fan of competitive surfing, it's going to be an exciting day. It's too bad that it's not this year. It almost puts kind of a anticlimactic vibe on this event at Lowers coming up in September.
Yeah, it kind of does, right? Well, hey, excellent show. Thank you for taking time out of your leisure,
my busy morning.
I mean, whatever, you're on vacation essentially. So thanks for taking time out of your vacation to do work.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a great show. And until next time, David, adios and aloha.
Scott Bass, realwatersports.com. They're in the middle, or actually they just wrapped their Under the Glass season 2. And the episode that I just watched featured your buddy Ryan Sakel's Soapbox Derby.
Oh, really? That's great. I'm not even familiar with the Soapbox Derby model by Ryan Sakel. What is this surfboard?
It's a short. It's basically a groveler. It's like a shorter, rounder outline made for small waves.
Well, that's perfect for us coming into June and the summer months here for us in California. And I'm sure Brett Barley rips the living crap out of it.
Yeah.
And look, Real Water Sports, they do such a good job presenting their hard goods, presenting what's available in the market right now by the best shapers in the world. Among, there are obviously many, many others, but they have quite a little portfolio there of incredible surfboard builders, and Ryan Sakel's one of them. And of course, I'm a huge fan. In fact, Ryan's making me a new Dark Arts Twinser. Yeah, we must get that out there. I'm getting another new surfboard. It's a Dark Arts Twinser, the Howler model, which is the Twinser model that I rode in El Salvador with you.
I feel like you developed that model. I mean, that is your model, isn't it?
I don't want to take credit for anything. I think that's Ryan. He's the expert here. I'm just the guy that kind of goes, yeah, I can do a good bottom turn on it. That's all I got left really is a bottom turn. And but no, it is supposed to be for me to kind of cut loose and get a little bit of speed going and rip and shred. And I'm super excited. I love my Howler.
Yeah, good. Well, what we love about Real Water Sports is not only do they have the large, international manufacturers and the boards that you see all the CT professionals riding, but they also work with small artisan handcrafted guys from Christensen to, Ryan Sakel to Roger Hines. So we're just big fans of theirs and thrilled to be able to recommend them for all of your surfboard purchasing needs because they can ship it to you no matter where you are in the world for one low flat fee at realwatersports.com. All good?
Okay. Yeah, everything's good. Thanks,
awesome,
man.
Yep. Thanks for making this happen.